Earthworks Audio is a proud sponsor of the Tech Arts Podcast. From front of house to center stage for over 25 years, Earthworks microphones have sculpted the sounds of your favorite concerts, venues, and performances. Capturing emotion with sound. Earthworksaudio.com.
From sold-out stadiums to intimate live performance venues, sound engineers agree on one thing for the best digital mixing consoles for live sound. The only name that matters is Digico. As the recognized worldwide standard for live audio mixing, Digico consoles are renowned for their industry-leading sound quality and ease of use. Whether your application is in a church, broadcast, theater, corporate, sports, or installed sound, Digico offers compact and affordable products. From the S21 all the way up to the pioneering power of the Quantum 852, Digico delivers the workflow, the feature set, and the absolute reliability that the world's biggest tours and programs have come to rely upon. If you're looking for a sound console, look to Digico for your answer. For more information on Digico, go to digico.biz. That's digico.biz.
This podcast is brought to you by AC Americas, a distributor of lighting, audio, and video solutions. acamericas.net. This is the Tech Arts Podcast, where we talk about tech, leadership, and all things that concern church audio, video, and lighting.
Welcome to the Tech Arts Podcast and the Earthworks Audio Studios. My name is DL. So glad to have you joining us today. Buckle up, friends. Today's Tech Arts Podcast is absolutely packed. We're kicking things off with media legend Phil Cooke from Cooke Media Group, diving into his latest books and his upcoming appearance at CFX Conference. You're going to love his insights. Then get ready for an incredible conversation with ProLights from AC Americas. We're talking all things lighting, front light, key lights, Cyc Lights, and yes, even house lights. But here's the twist. ProLights has figured out how to turn their house lights into Wi-Fi extenders. Yep, you heard me right. How did they pull that off? Plus find out how it works right here on the Tech Arts Podcast. But that's just the beginning. We've got a brand new Earthworks audio segment, and if you're watching us on YouTube, you can jump straight to it by using the chapter links. But we're not stopping there. There's also fresh content from the Paragon Angle and a special message from Digico. This episode is wall-to-wall with tech tips, insider knowledge, and gear talk you don't want to miss. Let's get it started right now with our first guest. He has appeared on NBC, MSNBC, CNBC, evidently all the NBCs. He has also appeared on CNN and Fox News. His work has also been profiled on the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, and the Wall Street Journal. It's our pleasure to have on the podcast today, Phil Cooke. Hey, Phil.
Thank you, David. Thrilled to be here, man. This is going to be fun.
I think so, too, man. We're talking to you today because you are going to be at CFX.
Yep.
And we'll be teaching 2 classes that unpack 2 of your books. By the way, if you're listening today and you don't know what CFX is, check them out at churchfacilitiesexpo.com. This conference provides education, connection, and solutions for churches. It's happening this September, and you can sign up at churchfacilitiesexpo.com. So, Phil, before we jump into talking about your CFX classes, can you tell our audience a little bit about what you and your company does?
Well, I come from a producing background, Cooke Media Group. We founded it in Los Angeles 35 years ago, and we produce programming in about 70 countries around the world. We do a lot of documentaries. We've done Super Bowl commercials. We've done all kinds of things, but probably the main thing we do these days, even more, is helping churches use media more effectively. You know, we jokingly say that we help Christians not suck at the media. And if you've ever seen much church media or Christian TV or even movies, you realize we've got a long way to go. And so my passion is to help churches understand that media is the language of the culture today. It's the language we live in today. And if we don't understand how to use that language, we're going to fail. So if we're going to make an impact in your community, if you're going to make an impact in your area or beyond, I think media is really key to that. So we're working with churches every day, helping them use that more effectively.
What I love about your company, too, is, when I go to the website or see the things that you've produced, you take people on a journey, and it's a high quality journey, and you take them to where you want them to go. I think a lot of times in the church media world, they just have an ending. Yes. And it's kind of predetermined. Yes. And there's no journey to kind of bring people in. Secular movies bring people in. Secular media brings people in. And so I really love that your company does that at a very high level.
Well, that's a great point, David, because it's interesting that every pastor is different. Every church leader is different. And so we try to adapt to whatever your situation is, where you're located, who your staff is, what unique gifts and talents your team brings to the table. So you're right. It's not a one size fits all thing. It's a customized experience for every church to help them really reflect their message and vision through the media. So I've never put it that way like you just did, but it was really great.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into the CFX thing. So Church Facilities Expo, you're going to be there. You're talking on your 2 books entitled Ideas on a Deadline. Great title, by the way.
Thank you.
And Church on Trial. So let's talk a little bit about these. It feels that like every church is going through a tribulation right now. The church with the big C is always in the headlines every single day. So my question to you is this: how do I avoid crisis in the first place?
Well, it's funny. A lot of the guys that come, a lot of the men and women that come to CFX are going to think, well, church on trial, how to protect your congregation during a crisis is not something that they'd be interested in. But the truth is, you're a leader. If you're in the media, if you're in communication, if you're an executive pastor, whatever staff level you're at in a church, you're a leader. And the more people understand how to navigate a crisis, the better it will be. And you're exactly right, David. Every day we seem to pick up the news and there's some pastor, ministry leader, youth director, someone, and disgruntled in the congregation. Something's gone wrong. And it's not just a moral, sexual, abusive crisis. It's also financial. Somebody told me the other day that $1 billion a year are embezzled from churches in America. And it's also insurance problems. It's when the city tries to encroach upon your property or something like that, or a kid breaks his leg. How do you deal with that if the family sues? So I'm going to be talking about some of the ways to protect your team, your staff. I mean, if whatever level leader you are, you're going to want to come to this because it's how to protect your team from anything happening. I'll talk a little bit about some of the safeguards we've created in our company. I'm not even a church or a ministry. We're a business, but I see this so often. I wanted to protect our team. So it's an important workshop, I think, particularly when you see the headlines today.
Well, I think a lot of people may show up and think, my team is good. No need to worry about them. I fully 100% trust them. How does that thinking get you in trouble?
You know what? It's not if I always say it's not if a crisis will happen, it's when. With social media, for instance, we have so many ways for somebody to say something inappropriate or stupid. It's just so easy to make a mistake. And sometimes it's an honest mistake. It's not necessarily because somebody in your team is evil, but it could be a very, very honest mistake, but it's not going to come out well. So it's funny, when I wrote the book, I saw the story of a church in Alabama, a woman who was their bookkeeper. They all said she's the most trusted person in the entire church. Well, a $75 check bounced one day, and they looked into it and discovered that over the last 5 years, this woman has embezzled $1 million from the church. And she's paid for a couple of houses. She put her kid through college. She bought a car. It's just remarkable. And she's going to go to jail, but she's required to pay it back, but she'll never be able to pay it back. And so that church is going to close because they can't handle that $1 million debt. And so when you see stories like that of the most trusted person in the congregation, you think, okay, we should always be alert because you just never, ever know. And so we'll talk about how to avoid those kind of situations in that workshop.
Yeah. Somebody famous said, I think it was a president, trust but verify.
Yes.
President Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. So don't ignore those red flags, and that class will help you. So the other class you're teaching on is Ideas on a Deadline, based on your book, Ideas on a Deadline. Yeah. So, and again, I got to give you props on that name. That is a really cool book name. But naturally, I'm a tech. So structure and plan, it's key for me, but I've always had creatives who had to be on my team, and I just can't constrain them with structure, or can I?
Well, one of the frustrations that I've seen in the church in particular is, there's a lot of leadership teaching out there. My friend John Maxwell pioneered that. He's done some brilliant things. Others have done brilliant things. But I noticed there's no real information out there on how to lead creative teams, how to lead creative people. And so you may be tech, you may be engineer, you may be a designer, whatever. You could always be more creative in the way you solve problems. I think the ultimate definition of creativity is solving problems. And one of the things I discovered is you can go on Amazon and there's millions of books on creativity. But there was no books I could find anywhere on how to be creative under a deadline, how to be creative when the clock is ticking. And so I think I've done I produced Super Bowl commercials, and I discovered early on that they're not going to change the date of the Super Bowl because I can't come up with a good idea for a commercial.
Phil Cooke needs an extension here.
Yes. And when you had a broadcast TV career like I have, you learn that, man, you have to deliver on a deadline. I spent my whole career delivering on deadlines. So I started putting some of the techniques I've used. And also in Hollywood, I've got so many friends doing major movies. I went to New York to talk to friends who are in the advertising industry at the top level. And I did some research. And so the book is really packed with not just how to be creative, but how to be creative when you need it the most. And let me tell you, as I said earlier, you may not feel like you're a creative person or on the creative team. You may be a tech person or an executive level person. But I'll tell you, you have to have that report by Tuesday, or you have to do that equipment install by September. You have to have their deadlines in every part of our life. And so I just learned some great techniques for, it's not really about waiting for that aha moment or waiting till the idea gods drop a brilliant idea on you. You can have great ideas when you need it the most. So there's some techniques like that we're going to learn in the class. It's going to be a really great time.
Yeah, one thing I've learned too, and you'll probably talk about this in the class as well, is deadlines drive creativity. Deadlines push you to be more creative because you have to hit it at a certain time. But, a lot of people come to me when I was, tech director at a church, and I felt guilty saying no. So I said yes to everything. So what advice do you offer to those who feel kind of caught in that trap? Because they're like, oh, the idea is great. I just have to say yes.
It's funny. That's a chapter of my book, How to Say No Well. In fact, I list about 6 or 8 ways to say no, but do it in a nice way. You don't have to be a jerk, but most people feel that way. And saying no is a huge problem. I think if you can't say no, then after a while, your yes means nothing. And so I do think we need to draw those boundaries. One of the things I've learned is if I'm going to do deep work, I've written 10 books in my career, and to write a book, you have to close the door, you have to put the phone away, turn off social media, and really focus. And to do that, particularly if you're working on a team or in a company or in a church, you need to be able to say, no, I can't do that. I've got to spend some time working on this project. So yeah, learning to shut the door, learning to say no is a real key thing. I think we live in the most distracted world in history, I think, today. One British study says the average person sees about 10,000 media messages every single day. And so, in fact, a study recently indicated we touch our phones more than 2,000 times a day. And so in that kind of world, we need to learn to say no and do it graciously, do it kindly. But at the same time, people need to understand that, hey, the stakes are high. This is important what I'm doing, and I need to be able to focus. So that is funny you say that because it's a chapter in the book, and we'll certainly talk about that in the workshop because that's really important.
I'm probably going to come to the workshop just for that. How do I say no? You said you have like 6 or 7 ways to do that. Yeah. I got to hear all of them, all 6 of them. How do I nicely say no? Yeah. So everybody, don't forget, Phil will be speaking at CFX. He has a lot more of these insights to unpack there, and you want to come to CFX to hear them. So register today by going to churchfacilitiesexpo.com. CFX is happening September 22nd through the 24th in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Register now at churchfacilitiesexpo.com. Phil, if someone is listening to this and they want to engage with your company more, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, my blog is philcooke.com. My world revolves around that. I'm Cooke with an E. And so philcooke.com, go check that out. But our company site is cookmediagroup.com. Again, Cooke with an E, cookmediagroup.com. And we'd love to chat. You can reach out to me there at either site. You can reach out to me, and I'd love to chat with you because helping church media, communication people, even tech people is just really a passion of mine. So I love it. Love to hear from you.
All right, so write this down. For strategy, broadcast video production, or coaching, go to cookmediagroup.com. Their mission is to accelerate your mission. So find out more at cookmediagroup.com. Phil, thanks so much for joining us today, and an even bigger thank you for all you do to serve the church. It's been a real pleasure having you on the podcast.
Well, thank you, David, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at CFX.
Up next on the Tech Arts Podcast, we're taking you straight to the buzz of the InfoComm show floor before the doors even open. Yes, it's a little noisy, but trust me, you'll want to lean in for this one. ProLights has some game-changing insights you don't want to miss. And if you're here for our Earthworks audio segment or curious about the Paragon Angle, stick around. They're just 13 minutes away. But right now, let's dive into the action at InfoComm. Welcome to the Tech Arts Podcast. We are on site at InfoComm, so you're going to hear a lot of noises and a lot of things going on. We are here. There's one right there, big loud noise. We are here with Nick D'Angelo from ProLights. Congrats on the new name, AC Americas.
Thank you.
Tell me how that works.
Right, so AC Americas is the sole distributor of ProLights in North America. So a little bit of Central America, Mexico, Canada, and North America. It's been about a 10-year partnership so far, and it's going really, really well. We're very happy with it.
And you represent ProLights.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So I work just with ProLights. So AC Americas has a couple other brands under their belt, but specifically for me, I'm the brand manager for ProLights of North America.
Well, I want to thank you for having us here,
of course,
and giving us a behind-the-scenes tour. But before we get into that, let's tell our audience a little bit how you build the best lighting system.
Sure, of course. So first and foremost, what you want to do is you want to make sure you're lighting for your space, okay? There's a lot of products out there, and they range from super simple to super complicated. So first thing you want to do is identify your needs. Is it a controlled space? Are you using cameras? Do you need depth? Do you need color? I know when I was over at ESPN before this, we actually didn't go with variable white lights for our talent because we knew we were in a controlled environment. We were going to lock our cameras in at 5600. And to me, the less amount of diodes that I have in my fixture, the less failure points I had. So even though there are some brand new lights, they've got plus minus green, they've got this, they've got that. For me, it was all about simplicity, lack of failure points, and output. And so something like just a daylight ellipsoidal was perfect for us. So it really comes down to knowing your space. Obviously, you got to play into your budget. For example, if you've got a smaller budget, maybe you're going to want some lights that can do more than one thing, or maybe you're going to want some workhorses in there, something that can be a talent light one day and then a scenic light another day, or a nice wash fixture or a moving light fixture on the low end cost-wise, something like that. So all of these things you got to think about. You don't want to just buy the newest or brightest. Sometimes people always want to get the biggest, the brightest, but you know, if your throw distance is 40 feet, you don't need 450 watts. So it's all about lighting for your space. Think simple first, think what you need out of your lights, and then attack it from that perspective.
Yeah, and what's cool about us being here is we're going to be able to see some of those workhorses that you were talking about.
Yes.
But one question I get a lot before we jump into the workhorses and looking at everybody's excited to kind of see the different fixtures you have here. But before we jump into that, one question I get a lot is variable white.
Sure.
What's my white balance? What is white balance? Like, why does it matter?
Right.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So television nowadays has been leaning more towards daylight. This is because of LED displays or monitors and that kind of stuff. They look better natively in daylight. Skin tones, personal opinion I guess, look better at more the tungsten range. So a variable white is a light fixture that can go from tungsten all the way up to daylight. Now, what's important about that is matching everything in your space and then setting your camera for that too. So if you have your camera set at a daylight white and you have your lights in tungsten, everything is going to look extremely yellow. But if you have everything tuned to the same color temperature, then your whites look white and everything looks nice and clean. So a variable white fixture gives you that ability to tune it to wherever in that white spectrum you want to be, whether you want to lean more tungsten or whether you want to be more daylight so that you can support LED displays, or if you're doing stuff outside, that kind of stuff.
And let me tell you guys at home why that's important. Being able to adjust that white is a big deal. I get this question a lot. Hey, my LED screen or my projector looks different from my camera shot. That's because of your white balance, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like if you buy a TV and you're going through it, you're setting all the settings, and they've got settings that are like warm or cool or super cool. All that's doing is really adjusting the white point of your video. And so same thing with lighting, you want to be able to match your environment. So if you are doing shoots on the road, you're going to want something with variable white, because you could be in one venue one day and their house lighting is at 4,400 Kelvin, which is right in the middle of daylight in tungsten. And then you could be outside one day and you're at a totally different color temperature. And if your lights don't match where your environment is, your talent isn't going to look good, neither will your space. Yeah. So it's all about matching that environment.
Yeah, and for all you churches out there that say, hey, but we do rock and roll, that's what we do. The white balance is key there too, because you want your reds on your red light to look red.
Yeah.
You want your blues on your blue light to look blue. And then those churches that say, well, we don't do television. Yeah, everybody does television. It's called streaming your church online. Well, Nick, I'm excited because you have a lot of these lights that we're talking about that could do the variable white and all that stuff. You have a lot of that set up. So let's go look at some of those lights that we have here.
I'd love to.
So Nick, we just talked about workhorses. And here we are in InfoComm. We actually get to put our hands on the lights. Talk to us a little bit about what you consider a workhorse.
Yes. So my favorite workhorse of our ProLights line has to be our PAR.
It doesn't look like a horse though.
No, but it works. So
by the way, if you laughed at that joke, I feel sorry for you.
So PARs back in the day, they used to be what? A can with a light bulb in it, right? Yeah. But we've come so far. And so something as simple as a PAR right now, if you get the right lensing for it, can do wonders. So the price point on something like this is exponentially cheaper than, say, a Fresnel, and just as capable if you are in a controlled environment. Now, if you are doing like run and guns or you're in the motion picture, Fresnel is obviously going to be what you need. You need all that adjustability. But if you're doing a solid lock-in install, you can know your throw distances, you can choose your lensing, and you can make something like this work for you. It creates a beautiful wash. It's a full color fixture with a high CRI white.
So this can do RGB, W can do all the colors?
Absolutely, yep. And it's got a above 90 CRI from everything from 3200 all the way up to 6500. So it's a really great fixture for all of that. But you also could use it for your dramatic colors and stuff like that whenever you wanted to change the scene. So how I like to use these is a nice broad wash of a space, or nice downlights on scenic, that kind of stuff. But again, for the price point and what it does, it can't be beat. And it's the workhorse. They are super simple, they have no fan, they're easy to maintain, they don't fail. And so something like this, if you get yourself a fleet of these, you have such a useful utilitarian fixture to do anything you need with.
Well, what about people who say, yeah, but all these churches out there, they're getting all these moving lights, they're getting all this stuff, like the hype of it, you know?
Sure.
Like, what do you say to that?
Well, if you need moving lights, you need moving lights, right? And there are budget moving lights. We can go over that in a little bit as well.
It comes back to your need, right?
It comes back to your need. This will not replace a moving light, but if you're just starting off, or even if you need, okay, so you need moving lights, right? But again, you're definitely still going to need that even wash. A moving light will never be as even as a PAR with the right lensing, or a soft light, or a Fresnel. It just won't, unless you get a wash moving light. But now you're talking about a hybrid mover, now you're talking about a lot of money, and you're probably talking about something with a CMY filter, which is going to make your CRI a little bit lower, because you have to have, not to geek out too much, but when you're using CMY movers, you have to have like a 7,000 Kelvin white source, because it's all about being able to punch through those flags in order to get the output. So that's a very challenging thing to do. Like lighting talent with a moving light, there's a lot to it, and you need to make sure you choose the right ones. And we'll go over that as well.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about moving lights in a minute, but what I really like about the full colored PAR is for that church out there that can't afford all of the hype, as I call it. You know, don't chase the hype, guys.
Sure.
Don't chase the hype.
Also, throw distances. I can't stress this enough.
Yeah.
If you have a low throw distance, you don't need, you might need, again, it comes back to your needs, but reevaluate your needs. What do you need? take a look at your throw distance, take a look at your budget, and take a look at your space and your depth, right? Because all of that comes into consideration, and you need to, like, there's been plenty of times where I've lit a lot of talent, a lot of desks for television, that kind of stuff, and I didn't use any profiles or movers or ellipsoidals. So it's about thinking what works for you in the space, what works best in your space. So when it comes to throw distances or ceiling heights, you got to take all that into account.
Yeah, don't chase the hype is what I was going to say earlier. The PAR is a great fixture that can give you even wash, everything that you just said,
right,
plus color to what you're trying to do. Now, when does the ellipsoidal come into play?
So just like you said, don't chase the hype. So behind me we have our new 450 watt 6-color ellipsoidal. It's a monster. It can do anything and everything. It can do long throw, it can go outside, it's IP65 rated, it has wireless built into it. But if you don't need all of that, you're paying a lot of money for something that you don't necessarily need, because we also offer fixed white color temperature ellipsoidals that are half the price of that. So again, if you know that you are always shooting in tungsten, or that you always want your talent at a certain white level, you can save yourself a bunch of money by going with whatever suits your needs, instead of buying the latest and greatest to come out from whatever company that has this, and this feature. Like, focus on your needs. These lights are designed for reasons, right? But you got to understand, there's a lot of markets out there. There's motion picture, there's television, there's house of worship. There's so many different genres that these light manufacturers need to appeal to. And so just identify your own needs before you just start writing checks to people because this is the newest light from so-and-so. You might be able to chances are you'll be able to save yourself a lot of money and simplify your programming, mind you. A lot simpler to program a single parameter fixture than a 6-channel fixture or a moving light.
Yeah, here's the theme, folks. The need. What is the need?
Exactly.
Now, Nick, tell us the basic difference between a PAR and an ellipsoidal. I'm sitting at home, I'm listening.
Yep.
I'm a pastor who's got to do everything all on my own. He's like, PAR, ellipsoidal, what's the, what I've bought in. I probably don't need moving lights, but tell me the difference between the PAR and the ellipsoidal.
So a PAR natively is pretty much just an open source light. This one has a lens on it, but if I were to remove the lens, as you can see, it's just LEDs inside a light. It's like an open source lens. Now, when you get to ellipsoidals, you have what are called shutters on them. So that's a way for you to be able to cut your light off of other stuff. It also comes with advanced lensing. So these lenses come in different degrees to make them shoot further and be brighter, or to make them wider. And that's really the main difference, is you have a lot more control with your beam with an ellipsoidal. However, this goes back to not your grandpa's PAR. These PARs nowadays, you have barn doors for them, you have different lensing for them, we even have asymmetric lensing. Yeah, of course. We even have asymmetric lensing for them that'll do, 60 degrees this way, but only 10 degrees up and down, so you get like a nice even line like this. So you can shape a PAR similar to how you would an ellipsoidal on short distances, obviously. These are not meant for long throw. These are meant for long throw.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like, if I'm lighting something where my pipe is 14 feet or less, I'm probably going with PARs and barn doors.
Yeah, so PAR light, great backlight fixture, front light fixture for like even washes. But hey, I've got a band member who's up there playing the bass, and I want to light just him.
Right.
That may be an ellipsoidal, because I can keep it off of the other band members.
Exactly.
Or I get a vocalist, I want to do a nice spot on my vocalist, but I don't want to see the other vocalist, so I can use the ellipsoidal for that.
These also come in handy for scenic lighting, or for whatever your back wall is, right? Like, say you have a certain texture on your background that's wood, and you want to be able to cut just to that because you want to color that differently than the other part of the wall that's brick. Very good for that kind of stuff. You can throw textures in them too, so you can put things that are called gobos in it. You shine that on there, you make it a little bit out of focus, and now you've created texture on on a flat wall, a little bit more visual depth and enhancement.
But the ellipsoidal is probably more hard edge, and this would be more of a soft edge.
Precisely.
To kind of think through how you're setting up your lights for them to flow
definitely
with each other.
This is definitely a hard source fixture.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the candy here.
All right.
Let's get to the moving lights.
Sure.
We will get to the moving lights in just a few minutes, but right now it's time to hear from our sponsors. Today on our segment, Mic Techniques with Earthworks Audio, we are talking to Suraj about Podium microphones. Hey, Suraj.
Hey, how you doing?
Suraj, just about every church at some point in time has needed a Podium microphone. Whether it be for a funeral or just your every weekend service, it becomes a need, and you can't just throw any mic up there. You need something that performs at a very high level, especially when it comes to rear rejection or rejection behind the microphone. So Suraj, talk a little bit about that and why Earthworks has an excellent solution for Podium mics.
Yeah, thanks for asking. The new Gen 2 Podium Flex mics have a new refined polar pattern that offers excellent rear rejection and has a notable improvement in audio quality to its Gen 1 counterpart. This is especially true in small rooms, like small church services or at funerals, like you mentioned, with lots of people and a lot of rustling noises, especially if you're opening up books or something or service notes.
Yeah, you got your Bible and you're like turning through your Bible. You don't want that to be picked up on the microphone, right? So it kind of rejects a lot of that stuff.
Exactly. Environments like these often cause issues with capturing unwanted noise as such, and especially in the high frequencies that a lot of these front of house engineers historically have wrestled with and tried to EQ out, and that kind of ruins the intelligibility. But with these new Gen 2 Podium mics, that is not the case, and you should be able to have a smooth sailing service with ease.
What do they sound like, man? Do they sound good?
On the market as close to your voice as they possibly can. We go for Earthworks products. We have and strive for the flattest, truest sound that we can achieve.
That's awesome, man. And tell me a little bit, Suraj, about what your role is at Earthworks.
So I am the account manager. I also oversee all of the service here at Earthworks. So if you have any issues with your Earthworks microphones, or you need a repair done, or you just have any questions, I'm the person you can contact. Most people contact me either via the phone, which you can find on our website, or through our service email, service@earthworksaudio.com. And I also do a lot of the technical writing with our R&D guy, Scott Lumsden, and we kind of collect and gather and update all of the information about our products, and he is the one who does all the testing on our products.
Well, Suraj is going to be joining us for these next few segments over the next few months. We've been doing these segments each month on the Tech Arts podcast. And I want to let you know that whether or not you're a seasoned professional or a public speaking novice, if you need a Podium microphone, the Flex mic has you covered. It's optimized for speech and intelligibility, as well as getting all the articulation out of that voice. Important features when it comes to any Podium microphone situation. To find out more about the Flex mic, go to earthworksaudio.com. That's earthworksaudio.com. From sold-out stadiums to intimate live performance venues, sound engineers agree on one thing for the best digital mixing consoles for live sound. The only name that matters is Digico. As the recognized worldwide standard for live audio mixing, Digico consoles are renowned for their industry-leading sound quality and ease of use. Whether your application is in a church, broadcast, theater, corporate, sports, or installed sound, Digico offers compact and affordable products. From the S21 all the way up to the pioneering power of the Quantum 852, Digico delivers the workflow, the feature set, and the absolute reliability that the world's biggest tours and programs have come to rely upon. If you're looking for a sound console, look to Digico for your answer. For more information on Digico, go to digico.biz. That's digico.biz. Right now, let's hear from Paragon 360 and the Paragon Angle.
To achieve high intelligibility, we need to focus on a few key acoustic specifications: reverberation time, signal-to-noise ratio, frequency response, and sound distribution. Hi, I'm Mark Coble, audio and acoustical designer at Paragon 360, and this is the Paragon Angle. Today, we're going to dive into the science of acoustics and intelligibility. Whether we're designing a worship center, a conference room, live performance venue, or sporting arena, getting the acoustics right is essential for clear communication. How do we define speech intelligibility? It's a measure of how easily listeners understand spoken words in a space. Poor acoustics can make even the highest quality audio systems sound inferior. What the human ear perceives as sound is a combination of the loudspeaker system interaction within a venue. To achieve high intelligibility, we need to focus on a few key acoustic specifications: reverberation time, signal-to-noise ratio, frequency response, and sound distribution. Let's unpack each one of these. First, reverberation time, or RT60, is the time it takes for sound to decay by 60 decibels. For speech, a short reverberation time avoids echoes that distort speech. In spaces like classrooms or meeting rooms, very short times of 0.4 to 0.8 seconds are highly desirable. In larger spaces like auditoriums, longer times are acceptable, up to 1.2 seconds. But then we begin to be pushing the limits. And anything more than that can make speech sound unnatural and unintelligible. To combat these undesirable reflections, we rely on the use of strategically placed and positioned absorbent and diffusion materials. Next is signal-to-noise ratio. This measures how much louder the presenter's voice is compared to the background noise, like noise from an HVAC system or even chatter. For good intelligibility, you need to maintain a ratio of at least 15 decibels above the noise floor as a minimum. For practical terms, if the background noise is 55 dB, speech levels should be at least 70 dB at the listener's ears. Well-defined systems often yield as much as 30 to up to 50 dB of ratio, providing excellent speech intelligibility. Now let's talk frequency response. Speech intelligibility hinges on the upper mid-range frequencies, roughly between 2 to 4,000 Hz. This is where consonants like S, T, and P live. These sounds are critical for understanding words. Acoustical treatments and loudspeaker designs should prioritize a flat response in this range. Excessive low-frequency energy can also quickly diminish speech intelligibility as well, so maintaining control of frequencies below 500 Hz are critical. Finally, sound distribution. Even if your reverberation, signal-to-noise ratio, and frequency response are ideal, intelligibility suffers if sound isn't evenly distributed. It is critical that the loudspeaker system is well designed to offer defined coverage to the audience areas while avoiding areas that could create reflections. Modern-day loudspeakers and predictive design software allow us to see sound and how it behaves within a venue. Designing a system where direct sound is smooth between the critical 2 to 4,000 Hz range to all seats, combined with well-designed acoustics, sets up the ingredients for a win for speech intelligibility. So how do we put all this together? Let's start with the room's purpose. If speech intelligibility is a high priority, then the need for some form of acoustic treatment is inevitable. If the room already exists, capturing acoustic measurements will quantify what your ears are hearing. If it's new construction, obtaining accurate drawings of the space are critical to ensure accurate data from simulation software. Absorption is not the only answer for treatment. Diffusion can also be used to scatter sound and evenly tame echoes. Standards like the ISO 3382 for measuring acoustic parameters in the room and Speech Transmission Index offer guidance in designing of acoustics in spaces. And there you have it. The acoustic specs for crystal clear speech, short reverberation, high signal-to-noise ratio, balanced frequency response, and even sound distribution are your recipe for success. Thanks for tuning in to the Paragon Angle. Join us next time for some more useful information.
Our main sponsor is Digital Grade Commission Ministries. Whether you need help building a team, finding the right gear, or just better understanding the church tech world, DGCM is here for you. Because they are a 501c3 donor-sponsored organization, they come to your church for free and do an assessment of your tech, visitor engagement, and online streaming. Plus, we give away free gear. Be sure to go to audiovideolighting.com and register your email today. This will sign you up for all of the free giveaways and give you first access to everything we offer for free. If you want free resources, training, or consulting, contact Digital Great Commission Ministries today by going to audiovideolighting.com. That's audiovideolighting.com.
This podcast is brought to you by AC Americas, a distributor of lighting, audio, and video solutions. acamericas.net.
So Nick,
Yes.
moving lights. This is what our audience, they're all waiting for the moving light to kind of see what
Right.
you're going to say about the moving light.
Sure.
We've been telling them the whole episode, you don't necessarily need the moving light, but I have the money. I do have the need.
Yep.
What do you recommend?
Yeah. Well, moving lights are the most fun lights, right?
Yeah,
they
they
do
are.
the most.
They also break the most too,
They
right?
certainly do. They do. So there's a lot to talk about when it comes to moving lights and how you're going to use them. So we'll start with, again, what I just brought up in the last segment, which is if you're using them for talent, you really need to focus on the CRI of them. So CRI, color rendering index. There's a couple other things that we measure LEDs with now, TLCI, R values, that kind of stuff, SSI. There's a lot of stuff you could geek out on all day and read up on it. We'll focus on CRI just because it's the kind of the most common one that people are referring to. So anything under like a 90 CRI can definitely start to make your talent look less than desirable on camera. Again, CRI is pretty much going to be all about how it looks on camera, and essentially what it is if you look at the color spectrum, you want a nice little curve of a color spectrum, but LEDs, full color LEDs, try and get that perfect color spectrum with red, green, blue, and then a white. So there can be spikes, and it's all about how you end up blending that to get a high CRI. So if you're going to use a moving light for your talent, you need to focus on CRI as well if you want good results for camera. They do make moving lights with high CRI filters. Both of these have them in there. That could help in some cases. But again, why it's so hard to get a good CRI moving light is because it's going to be a trade-off. In order to get a lot of output, most moving lights use CMY flags, cyan, magenta, yellow flags, and they shoot a source through them, and that's how you get your color mixing. Or they use dichroic filters. All of this you need to punch through. You need a bright source, and one of the brightest sources is like a 7,000 Kelvin white. But natively, that does not have a good CRI. So you have to do stuff to the light to end up making it better for camera if you want all that output. So it's a very delicate balance. Now, there are moving lights out there that have full color arrays. There are moving lights out there that have 90 plus CRIs. You're going to pay for them because that's what they're there for.
So ProLights, you guys offer moving light products that answer the CRI question.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, so we have a couple in our line. We've got some profiles that have a 90 plus CRI. We also have 6 color movers that are just coming out, 500 watt and 1000 watt profiles. And then we have 6 color moving head for Nels that we also have. All of those have a CRI of 92 and above. We also have the Astra 900, which is a 900 watt profile, and that has a high CRI as well. But again, if you're a church and you're trying to have moving lights to do more than one thing, you might want to look into something like a hybrid, okay, instead of a profile. So right here we have 2 hybrids. They're different in size, but they also differ in characteristics. And so this kind of goes into, again, what do you need? This fixture over here is going to be twice the price of this. And I'll tell you why. It comes down to the feature set.
Because it's bigger.
Well, because it's bigger, of course. Actually, no. They're only 130 watt difference, but it comes down to the feature set. So this has CMY mixing, which we just talked on. So it has a cyan, magenta, and yellow flag. It linearly mixes those. You can make anything on the color spectrum.
What's this fixture called?
This is the Astra Hybrid 330.
Okay.
They also have the Astra Hybrid 330 IP for outdoor.
Okay.
And then this is the Jet Hybrid 200. Okay. And so this one does not have linear CMY. This has a color wheel. So it's got about 9 different colors on it. So again, to your needs, do you need the ability to make a bunch of colors, or are you just doing rock and roll and you can get away with some pre-installed dichros, pre-installed colors, which are interchangeable, but you could save yourself money there. Other features that this has that this doesn't have, prisms and animations. So this has 2 prisms. It has a 8-facet circular and a linear prism, and then it also has an animation wheel. Now, what does all that do? It ends up taking your image if you put a texture in, and it ends up making it very like abstract, and then you can spin it, and then you can add color, and you can almost make movement with it. So you can do really cool effects like that. This has one prism, 5-facet, and so if you don't need, like an animation wheel mixed with an 8-facet prism is going to give you like almost like a water effect. Okay, it can be that intense. But if you don't need all of that, again, this is half the price as this, and you'll get just as good of output from pretty much any throw distance. And you can, I mean, it's the features and the size right here. Like, you don't have this big bulky thing. So again, it comes down to what do you need. If you don't need all the features of this, then something a little bit less expensive might be able to do everything that you need it to.
Well, it also sounds like what you're saying, and the theme of this podcast is, don't go all in on one thing.
Right.
Like, hey, you got a nice par that can help you with your washes, and that will lower your budget and maybe give you a little bit more money for the moving light.
Right.
That can help you do the beam effects and some of the water effects and some of the things that you're talking about. If you go all in on all moving lights, then you may be sacrificing some other areas that could just use a standard par or an ellipsoidal or whatever. And the hybrid thing, explain that. Is that kind of like the ellipsoidal and the par? Is it similar to that? Or?
It's similar in the sense that it's jack of all trades, master of none in a sense, right? So it's not a wash fixture, which is just a wide open face, and it's not a profile fixture. It doesn't have shutters in it. You can't cut it like that. It's in between. So it has a zoom to it. So this can do, I want to say like 8 to 54 degree zoom. So you can make it nice and tight, or you can make it wide as a wash, but you'll never be able to cut it like a profile. So it's limited in that sense, but it does give you the ability to either have like the pin spots for your ballyhoo effects or this or that, or make it nice and wide for a general wash. So it's a nice utilitarian fixture, but again, you pay for all of these. And if you don't need all of its features, then you can save yourself some money and diversify your rig a little bit with some static fixtures.
Yeah. Well, talk to our audience a little bit about candy. So I hear this a lot. I go to churches. Even when I was a tech director, I would say, hey, give me some of the flash and trash. Give me some of the candy.
Sure.
Explain first off what eye candy is in the lighting world. And then secondly, how would you implement it into your rig?
So when I think eye candy, I think fixtures that I'm seeing the face of on camera. So I'll call those open face movers. There's a lot of these on the market. They all have their gimmicks. Some of them have an LED ring around the outside and individual lensing with pixel control. But essentially what they're there to do is to give, they output light, but they're also giving that visual effect to people in the audience and on camera. So I wouldn't necessarily use one of these as eye candy, because you're not really going to get the effect. You just have a beam coming out. But a laser source fixture or an open face fixture or a batten fixture with a little bit of wave action to it, stuff like that is all eye candy to me, something that you can see. They're not the best for lighting talent. So specifically like all these open face fixtures with all the individual lenses, what you'll notice is if you have them set at a certain color or a certain white and you zoom them out at all, you're going to get a completely different color and your image changes dramatically. And it's just because of how the lensing is. Every single one of those is individual lens, and it's very hard to maintain that algorithm in the processing. Those all have their place too, but that is more for your audience and for your camera than it is for lighting talent or your space.
Yeah. So you wouldn't necessarily use moving lights for candy. Everybody listen to this. I've done a lot of candy lights for television, and I did them with pars.
Yes.
And basically they would throw in the star filter or on the camera. The par would just be aimed at the camera and just do a little bit of a pulse. You probably did that at ESPN and some other places.
Yeah.
And a lot of churches think that it's moving lights, and it's really just a simple light that's just doing a little bit of a pulse, and the camera picks up on it and gives you the star filter effect and all things of that nature.
I would say to use a hybrid or a beam as a eye candy light is you would need a lot of them to do the effect that you want, and I think it's money better spent elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because it's really a one-trick pony at that point. You're really just having a single light, and to your point, you can do that with something much cheaper.
Yeah. So you got candy, and then you have utility.
Right.
A lot of people will use that term utility. Are moving lights utility lights?
They can be. So
define the term utility then.
When I think utility, I think is something that can do more than one task, right? So a hybrid mover like this could be utility in the sense that if I have, my choir on stage and I need a nice big wash, you can zoom out your hybrid fixtures and you can give a nice wash and you could put color on them, and then you can also use them for your flash and trash or for your rock and roll. You could have beams, you could have your ballyhoo effects, and so in that sense, they are a dual purpose. If you spend a little bit more money and you get something with a higher CRI, you can absolutely use them to light your pastor, or you could do something like that, and then also use them again for any textures or patterns or fun dynamic effects and that kind of stuff. So that's what makes them utility. If you go with something like a beam mover or a spot mover, those aren't really going to give you that much utility. Those are meant for one thing and one thing only, and that is to shoot a beam of light.
An effect.
And that's it, right. Those are really good with atmosphere because you get to see them. They're usually a tight beam, and when you see them in the fog and the haze, they look really, really good. But without atmosphere, it's kind of just a light that ends up hitting somewhere in the distance.
Well, you just hit something, and I know this wasn't on our list to talk about, but when we talk about moving lights, I got to talk about haze a little bit. Mm-hmm. So a lot of churches struggle with this, where the pastor's like, I don't want it to look like a nightclub.
Yeah.
Without haze, obviously without haze, you're missing some of the effect that's going on with the lights.
Yeah.
But kind of talk that through the church's perspective of haze, when you should use it, when you shouldn't use it, and also the difference between haze and fog, because I think that gets confused a lot.
So it is something that you have to use judiciously because it lingers and it does affect your entire image. And you'd be surprised what you could do without it by just using some lighting techniques and tips and tricks, like bringing down your intensity, creating that sort of intimate atmosphere can go a long way, can make those deep colors pop out a lot more. But if you're going to use atmosphere, so fog is low-lying, okay? Fog is low-lying. Haze, thicker.
Even if it's up high, it's a thicker, smoky.
But it doesn't typically, unless you're shooting it up, it's not meant to kind of stay in the air. It's meant to billow out, and then it dissipates a lot faster than haze. Haze is meant to create just a little bit of like pulp in the air, if you will.
Just enough for that beam.
Exactly, because it's like when you're in a dusty room and the sunlight's coming through the window. It's just like that. You want to see the stuff in the air so that you see the beams of light, and it gives you, as opposed to one point of interest, which would be the face of the light, you now have the face of the light and you have the beam and the trajectory of the light that are also now visual enhancements to your space. But very hard to use that successfully on camera because you're going to fight also dousing out your talent or obscuring the way they look on camera. So really good for obviously music and performances and that kind of stuff. It's something that in my career, in television, we stayed away from it as much as possible because it's not like you can turn it on and then off. It lingers unless you have a really unique system to get all the air out of your space. So it's tough. I would say use it sparingly and use it towards the end of your service.
Yeah, what I like to tell churches when it comes to haze is when your house lights are on, you should almost not even be able to see it. And it should be used in a way that when the light moves through it, you can see it and you can feel it. But otherwise it goes away. I loved to have mine set up where I would haze just enough so that when I got to the sermon, it appeared to be gone. And so, we would do some sermons where we wanted to see the beams, but for the most part, when we got to the sermon, the teaching portion of it, the haze would be
Now,
gone.
how long did it take you to figure out that level?
The timing?
Yeah, well, the amount,
Yeah.
right? Because that's the other part that goes into it. Of course you can get that, but you're going to have to put the time in to figure out what are your settings, when do you run it, how long do you run it for?
Well, what we figured out was it wasn't full blast. We figured out that we would run it maybe 10 minutes. I think what we ended up doing was we would use a DF50. We would run it 10 minutes before the service at I think 20%. And that would hang in the room just long enough so that 15, 20 minutes into the service, it would go away. But yeah, it took us about 5 or 6 weeks to kind of figure that out. Lots of testing, lots of figuring it out. And that was because the pastor said, hey, I don't want it to look like a club. I hear that a lot. I don't want it to look like a club. I want to still feel the light. I want to still see the light, but I don't want it to look like a club.
Yeah.
So we've mentioned a lot of lights.
Yes.
Let's run down them again. So the PAR, the ellipsoidal, the Fresnel, the moving lights. Kind of just hit each one.
Sure.
And the ProLight kind of brand model number of what it is.
Okay.
And just hit it real quick and tell our audience again, good 30-second recap of what each light is good for.
The ECL PAR IPMFC, it's a mouthful, but it is widely available. It is a workhorse. It's got a low price point, but it's got a high CRI and it's got full color. And with the lensing options and the shaping options and the barn doors, you can do so much with it. It is by far, out of personal opinion, our entire line, all the way from soft lights, all the way up to movers, all the way up to the $11,000 5K equivalent Fresnel, the best bang for the buck that you can get in our ProLights line. We have profiles. We've got the big monster, the 450 watt 6 color. We've also got individual whites at daylight and at tungsten, and then we have a variable white as well. So all of those are a little bit cheaper and can do everything except the full color version, full color capabilities that this guy can do. From that, you also have the Fresnel, probably not going to be used too much in the house of worship industry, but all of our Fresnels are the same 6 color engine, high CRI. Movers, we have 2 primary lines. We have the Jet line, we have the Astra line. The Jet line is going to be your more budget-friendly line. Throttles back a little bit on the feature sets, but saves you a lot of money in your pocket. And then the Astra line is a little bit beefier of a line. This goes, like I said, all the way up to a 900 watt profile unit. We've got a couple laser sources, but primarily the Astra and the Jet are the 2 moving light lines.
Now, moving lights break. They just do.
Yeah.
That's what they are. They move, they're doing things, they break.
Yeah.
ProLights and your support.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yes. Every fixture, except for moving lights, 5-year warranty, indoor, outdoor, doesn't matter on all parts and labor. The moving lights...
Wait, you said 5 years?
5 years. Outdoor lights too,
5
which
years.
is rare in the industry. A lot of people will give you 10 years or 5 years here and there, but not on their outdoor fixtures.
Yeah.
Our outdoor fixtures are just as reliable as our indoor fixtures.
That's a wow, folks.
Yeah.
5 years.
And we also offer the ability to buy additional years at the time of purchase for a little bit of an upcharge on the sale price. So I think it's like 2% per fixture, and then we'll give you an extra year. And you can go as many years as you want. The movers are 2 years. It's just the nature. They're dynamic fixtures. They have a lot of moving parts. They've got servo motors in them. They've got a bunch of stuff. And honestly, these fixtures are simple enough now. It's not like back in the day with like a Mac 250 or something where you had to pull the entire thing out and they had all these lens sleds and stuff. These are, if you have yourself a good technician, pretty easy to do a little bit of like the routine work. Like if you have to replace a power supply, you could probably do that in-house, no big deal. They're not as complicated as moving lights used to be, so I wouldn't be worried about them. They might need repairs, but I wouldn't let it scare you, is how I'd say that.
Nick, let's talk a little bit about house lights. This is a big part of the church market. White, not white, RGBW, not RGBW. Talk a little bit about what you guys offer.
Yeah, so ProLights does a lot of work in the house of worship market for their house lights. We have 3 different sizes of our house lights. This is the ECL pendant. It is available in a 50 watt, 100 watt, or a 200 watt version. You can get 20, 40, or 60 degree lenses on any of them. All comes down to your output. Also available in just variable white from 3,000 all the way up to 6,500.
So if I don't want RGBW, I don't want all the colors,
right,
I can get just variable white.
Correct.
And match my color temperature.
Correct. That being said, the full color version does share the same LED array as the PAR, and it does have a CRI of 96 for all of your whites as well. So it's broadcast quality, but you also get that added feature of having full color. Now, another cool feature about these is all of these have wireless built into them. So they can operate as like transceivers. So you can hardwire this into your whole rig, but then you could use the last one to ping other fixtures wirelessly in the same universe on your lighting network. So a really cool feature. Again, 5-year warranty on these parts and labor. Comes in white, comes in black. We have a lot of traction with these currently in North America. They sell like crazy over in Europe. They're just a really, really good option. You can get wall mounts for them, you can get in-ceiling mounts, you can get recessed mounts. So anything you need for like a house light, we have the accessories for it. We offer dial-X reports too. So like if you give us the heights of your space and you give us the size of it, we can let you know how many of what size you need in order to get the output that you want at your throw distance.
Well, if you're sitting there watching, you heard him say wireless. You can wire it up as well, but talk a little bit about the wireless, because that's always made me nervous.
Me too. You should always run wires if you can.
Did you guys hear that? Always run wire.
But what I like to say is that with this system, I would definitely hardwire it in, but where it becomes beneficial is that one or two times where you bring in a rental light or you bring in something else, or you have something sitting on the floor as an uplight in front of your pastor or something, and you don't want to run data to that, you can ping it through this. You don't have to worry about running a new data line or finding a new universe for it. Like, you have wireless set up already in your space for when you need it.
So it's like a network router, kind of like you're able to.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, we call them transceivers, so they have the ability to transmit and receive wireless. So if they're getting a hard line in, they can transmit out. But if you didn't have a hard line, they can also receive, and then they can transmit that out as well.
So you got like a blanket of trans.
Yeah, it's like a mesh. It's like a mesh system. Yeah.
That is it's pretty
really cool.
And what's the name of this light again?
This is the ECL pendant. I believe this one is the full color. Yep. And this one's the small version. Above us is the large, and those are awesome, but they're very, very bright.
Hey Nick, tell us a little bit about your Cyc Lights.
Sure. So these are the ECL Cyclorama 100s. We also have them in a 50, which is half the size. So what's really cool about these, no fan. They are completely silent. You could have these sitting right up in the front of your church, and you're not going to hear anything. You can see this antenna on the back. It has wireless built in.
By the way, the fan thing is a big deal.
Yeah.
The fan thing is a big deal for churches.
I don't know how you're going to edit this, but with the house lights, if they're wireless, they hit these. So you do not need to run data to them. And these also act as transceivers and pass it from one to the other. Now, I don't know if you're noticing a theme here, but the LED array in this is the same one that's in the full color pendant. It's the same one that's in the PAR. So everything matches. Everything is high CRI. You can use this to light a cyc. You can use this as a footlight. It has that high CRI for your talent and your good whites. Really, really amazing fixture. We do very, very well with this one. Again, 5-year warranty on it. You can operate it in standalone mode if you wanted to.
So you don't need a console, you could just set this up?
Yeah, you can set it up. You can set a preset to it too. You could even, with most of the fixtures we have a profile in it called Uno. And you could actually set the fixture to look a certain way, record that, and then you could operate it as just a single parameter fixture on your board. That could be a white, that could be a purple, that could be a blue, a green, doesn't matter what it is, but you can pretty much set any ProLight fixture into a one-channel mode.
And what's the model? What is this model?
This is the ECL Cyc 100.
And you make a couple versions of it?
We make two of them. So this is 100 centimeter, and then we make a 50, which is half the size.
So the Cyc 50 and the Cyc 100.
Exactly.
So moving lights, Fresnels, ellipsoidals, PARs, ProLights is the place you want to go to get your lights.
Absolutely.
Nick, tell us how people can get in touch with ProLights and find out more about your lights.
Yeah, so our main website is ProLights.it. That'll have our entire catalog. You can also go to ACAmericas.net. That has our more common North American products. We're also available on some of your big retailers, your Full Compass, your B&H Photo, stuff like that.
So if you want to find out about ProLights and the products that they offer, you can go to ACAmericas.net and ProLights.it, ProLights.it. Make sure you go there, check out their moving lights, their PAR lights, all of the fixtures that we talked about today. And remember, get what your need is. Don't buy the candy just because some other church bought it. Don't go out and say, hey, I'm going to get this because I saw it on the Taylor Swift tour. No, get what's right for you. Make sure you don't buy all moving lights. Make sure you don't buy all static lights. Find the right mix for what you need. You may not need moving lights, but a lot of times if you have a nice base for your wash, as well as add in some of the candy lights and some of the things that we talked about, which you can build towards. You don't have to get that all in the first go. That will help your lighting be what you need, not what everybody else has. So remember that when you're doing your lights.
Well, that wraps things up for today's episode. I can't wait to talk to you on the next Tech Arts podcast. Until then, I'm David Leuschner signing off by wishing you a great day and praying God blesses every moment
of your week. See you soon.
You have been listening to the Tech Arts Podcast, presented by Digital Great Commission Ministries. DGCM is a 501c3 nonprofit that was started to help churches with all things technical. Whether you need help building a team, finding the right gear, or just a better understanding of the church tech world, DGCM is here for you. Find out more about our free on-site visits, reports, and consulting by going to audiovideolighting.com. Digital Great Commission Ministries will help you run your church service like a pro. Find out more at audiovideolighting.com.
From sold-out stadiums to intimate live performance venues, sound engineers agree on one thing for the best digital mixing consoles for live sound. The only name that matters is Digico. As the recognized worldwide standard for live audio mixing, Digico consoles are renowned for their industry-leading sound quality and ease of use. Whether your application is in a church, broadcast, theater, corporate, sports, or installed sound, Digico offers compact and affordable products. From the S21 all the way up to the pioneering power of the Quantum 852, Digico delivers the workflow, the feature set, and the absolute reliability that the world's biggest tours and programs have come to rely upon. If you're looking for a sound console, look to Digico for your answer. For more information on Digico, go to digico.biz. That's digico.biz.
This podcast is brought to you by AC Americas, a distributor of lighting, audio, and video solutions. acamericas.net.
From front of house to center stage, for over 25 years, Earthworks microphones have sculpted the sounds of your favorite concerts, venues, and performances. Earthworks Audio is a sponsor of the Tech Arts Podcast. We are so happy to have them on board and excited to promote the new Earthworks SR117 vocal mic and capsules. To find out more about Earthworks Audio or to get your hands on this mic, go to earthworksaudio.com. That's earthworksaudio.com. Capturing emotion with sound. earthworksaudio.com.